Hello there. We're so excited you guys are with us. We see that some of our attendees are still logging in. We will get started in just a moment. Thank you. Well, welcome everyone. We are so excited that you're here with us today, and thank you for joining Generation Schools Preventing Summer Learning Loss series. I'm Ashley Valentine. I'm the Director of Project Management at Generation Schools, and I'll be your host for today. Feel free to ask me questions throughout our session in the chat box. We hope you're able to attend some of our sessions. We actually have 3 that happened this week. It was really great to see a couple of you folks join us in session 1, in which we examined promising practices for preventing learning loss. Today in session 2, we will model new strategies for motivating and engaging students and their families. It's going to be a really interactive and engaging session, or at least we hope for you all. And in session 3, this coming Friday, we'll apply new learning strategies to transform teaching and learning. To eliminate background noise during today's recording, everyone will remain muted. We encourage everyone to engage in discussion with both panelists and attendees in the chat box located in the Zoom toolbar. We ask that if you want to right now, go ahead and look at your chat box and make sure to select the panelist and attendees option from the dropdown. Everyone is welcome at this point to welcome everyone else, introduce yourselves. Feel free to share your name, the organization or district that you're coming from, and your role. As you introduce yourselves, I wanted to share that we will have some polls in place for today. And when we do have polls, a pop-up box will appear on your computer screen. For those using a mobile device, a green poll in progress icon will appear at the top of your screen. Please click this icon to respond. If you have questions at all today for any of our speakers, you're also welcome to include those in the chat box, and we will take them throughout the session as well as the end at our Q&A section. And of course, today's recording and slides will be emailed to you within 24 hours after the webinar. Welcome, Tim, Olivia, Ellen, Kristen, it's glad you're back. Hello, Sam, Denise. It's so encouraging to see folks all across the nation. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that you're able to have some fun and engage with one another and share ideas. Some of our incredible people from today are going to be our speakers, of course, and we will have the pleasure of hearing from both of them, including Dr. Lisa Leith and Dr. Lucy Hansen. At Generation Schools Network, Dr. Leith facilitates instructional excellence, inclusive climate, and transformational school improvement. Prior to joining GSN, Lisa was a senior consultant for the Colorado Department of Education. She also served as a vice president of educator effectiveness for the School Improvement Network. Dr. Hansen has been serving the needs of California students for over 30 years as an elementary teacher, principal, program specialist, curriculum commissioner for the state of California, and as an adjunct university professor. In her current role as the coordinator of supplemental interventions for Palm Springs Unified School District, Lucy develops and facilitates programs to re-engage struggling students and their families. She has been successful in removing barriers to learning, increasing capacity, and creating equity, which has helped the district students achieve grade level standards and develop positive self-efficacy. In today's session, we will focus on modeling new strategies for motivating and engaging students and their families in dynamic learning through play, exploration, curiosity, and fun. So get comfy. Hopefully you have a note catcher that we sent to you earlier, or even just a Post-it note. Lean in, because here we go. Take it away, Lucy.
Thank you, Ashley. The learning outcomes for today's session are the following. We will explore an exemplar summer learning program, learn how to implement a summer learning program of your own, gain strategies to incorporate play, exploration, curiosity, and fun, and understand the power of family and community partners. Successful learning programs include a strong social emotional component, as well as engaging the students in academic experiences to bring ownership in student learning. If we empower parents to be supportive advocates for their child, summer learning loss can be diminished so that students can experience success in their upcoming grades. I've had the opportunity to develop and create the program that I'm going to talk about today in my current position. As stated earlier, I'm the coordinator of supplemental interventions. That was a new program that was a new position that was placed in our district. Basically, I had 3 directives. Target students who are not meeting grade levels, okay. You cannot impact the regular school day, okay, and you cannot use the core curriculum. I had the opportunity to reimagine learning for the most at-risk students and their unique learning needs. So I said, I have an idea. What if we can service or meet the needs of our students through the lens of science, by using the lens of science? What if we can provide a hands-on, engaging kind of program where students can participate in activities that were far beyond what they had experienced? So as the program developed from scratch, we came up with a pledge. And it said, I will build my foundation with high expectations. I will communicate, collaborate, and have a good time. We started every day this way. But now I'm going to show you a little picture or a little video about what it looked like. This video that you're going to see is going to summarize the Extreme Learning Program, a program where students strived in their academics, they made new friends, and we're excited to bring their families to showcase the end of the week's program. We taught students how to become expert learners. And now for the video.
Hi, my name is Dr. Lucy Hansen, and I'm the coordinator of supplemental interventions for the Palm Springs Unified School District. The program I will be talking about is Extreme Learning. We call those learning sessions. We have them during the summer, the winter, and the spring. Extreme Learning is a framework that we use to bring supplemental instruction to our students. Using the lens of science, we're able to support our students through science, technology, reading, engineering, the arts, and math. By integrating these subject areas, students are able to participate in a rich instructional program where they engage in their learning, where they learn to use critical thinking skills, where they are able to problem solve, and also collaborate with their fellow classmates.
1, 2, ready, go! One more time. Wait a second. Little louder, ready, go!
One of the ways that we use our resources is also by bringing the arts into our program. That engages the students and lets them experience how learning can be fun. By combining all of these areas, students are able to gain in a short time a sense of connection with the school. This is our first year with the program, and we look forward to refining our program as time goes by. What we're doing is taking away the barriers that they may have in learning so that they in turn can be successful when they go into their regular classroom. We have several teachers in every classroom so that the students can feel successful or ask for help when they need it.
My son comes to the Extreme Learning Program. He loves it. They learn everything that they learn in school, so it's always good that they, have something to kind of keep them on track.
My daughter Sophie Herrera, she loves this program. I just want to say thank you to the staff and see you guys in the summer.
Tell me one thing you learned today.
I learned that the esophagus is where your food is pushed down into your stomach, and your stomach takes it to your small intestine where it's broken down, and it takes it to the bladder where it separates the parts you need and the parts you don't need. Yeah. And then the large intestines forms the waste that you don't need, and it comes out of your anus.
Okay, can you tell me how long the small intestine is?
For an adult, it would be about like 30 feet, and for a person, for like a little kid, it could be like 5 or 10 feet.
Thanks for showing us your program, Lucy. Really appreciate it. We'd love to hear from you in the chat box. What caught your attention while watching the video? Think about what stuck out to you. What was the first thing that came to your mind? Is there an immediate need that you have? Feel free to share with both all participants and attendees. Brandon shared hands-on engagement, absolutely. Jade shared how much the students learned and absorbed. Sam said resources and staff that were available to students, student-centered learning, wide variety of learning opportunities, singing, dancing, etc. Britt said student engagement and excitement. Awesome. As you're thinking about these, if any ideas come to mind that you start thinking about for your upcoming summer learning program, feel free to share those in the chat box as well. Enrichment activities, not new learning. Great point. Great, thank you, Lucy. Lisa, we'll have you take it away. Thank you.
So Lucy, in your video, it mentioned that this was your first year. I know the video was created in your first year. How long has that program been going on now?
This would have been the third year.
Awesome. So this SBAC data that we're looking at shows the considerable impact of these extreme learning events on student learning. So by the way, SBAC is the Smarter Balance Assessment Consortium. So that's an annual assessment administered in California. And we at Generation Schools conducted a diagnostic review of the program through 2018. And this is what we found. In math, so look at the chart on the right side of your screen, you can see that 67% of students met expectations for growth or moved up to a higher category of achievement. For example, they could have moved from does not meet expectations to approaching or meets expectations. So in ELA, the chart on the left side of the screen, 92% of students met expectations and growth or moved up to a higher category of achievement. So what is really remarkable is that these 439 students were students who qualified for supplemental services for the 2 years in which these match scores were compared. So simultaneously focusing on students' social emotional health and academic growth is key to achieving uncommon learning gains like these, especially in struggling populations. Okay, so a little more about the design of the extreme learning programs in Palm Springs. Every day, students engage in activities that spark social, emotional, and academic connections. Each morning, students hear words of encouragement. They're invited to share their feelings, maybe what they're grateful for or looking forward to. Often they recite the pledge that Lucy read earlier that confirms their high expectations for themselves. These programs are designed around activities. They embed games, math play, conversation, collaboration. They often use a station model, setting up stations where students rotate activities, maybe from ELA to math to science. They might also include art or photography, technology, dance, or a makerspace. So let's look at some more data. You know, NWEA is a widely administered standardized assessment of student learning, which produces one of the largest databases of student achievement and growth data. These data are analyzed by an associative organization called the Collaborative for Student Growth, and that's led by Dr. Megan Cafield and Dr. Beth Tarasawa. Analyzing NWEA seasonal data, these two researchers report three trends about summer regression. So the first one, as we've pretty well established, achievement typically slows or declines over the summer months. Secondly, the declines tend to be steeper for math than for reading. And then finally, as students move up in grade level, the extent of the loss increases proportionately in those upper grades. So here's some further research by Dr. Cafield and Dr. Tarasawa. Here they analyzed some NWEA historic data to predict specific outcomes for literacy and math learning loss for a year from last September 1st, 2019 through this upcoming September 2020, right, at the end of the summer. So they're making projections based on a huge database of student learning data. And their projections for ELA learning are shown on this graph with 3 lines that delineate predicted NWEA RIT scores for English language arts. And unfortunately, these data suggest there will be major ELA impacts from the COVID closures for students. So diving a little deeper, ELA growth is predicted across this current academic year. You see the curve lines, but the average within your growth and the dashed line shows projected trajectories under the COVID slowdown, and then dotted lines show projected trajectories under a COVID slide. So what we're seeing here is an estimate that suggests students will return in the fall, this September, with roughly only 70% of the learning gains in reading relative to a typical school year. On the next slide, there's the same analysis, but looking at math data. And their predictions for math learning loss are more severe. The projected impact is to be even more negative to our upcoming fall math scores. Whew. So this is definitely not good news, but diminishing the likelihood that these predictions will actually come true is the reason we're having this discussion today. So with appropriate intervention, these data don't have to define or determine destiny for our students. The efforts that we're employing now to support our students and families, both emotionally and academically. So the choices we make through this coming 4 months can radically reduce learning loss and even result in learning gains. This is a complex data set, but really worth studying. There's a link at the bottom of both of the graphs if you want to read the article and dive a little bit deeper. So let's focus again on interventions we can apply. Oops, we're going to do a poll.
Thanks so much, Lisa. Appreciate it. In just a moment, Lucy's actually going to walk us through the stages of implementation to help everyone develop a summer learning program. Before we jump in, we'd like to know which component of the formula for preventing summer learning loss is most important to your school or your organization. So in just a moment, a pop-up box will appear on your screen. And if you are on your cell phone, please go ahead and click the green poll in progress icon to respond. You'll go ahead and select the one that you find is the most important. Thank you everyone for participating. Wow, we had 50% said social emotional learning, 40% chose academics, and we had 10% choose family engagement. Lucy, can you share a little bit about the components here that are noted and how we're going to move forward as we think about planning?
Sure. You know, when we look at social emotional learning and we're talking about students that have been struggling, that is so key, because many times they come into our program and they have a self-defeating attitude. I can't learn anything. I'm dumb. I can't read. I don't know how to do math. And as we work with them and introduce them to new topics or review some of the ones they've had during the school year, by the end of the 3 weeks, they're like, I could read now. Dr. Hansen, I could read. And just that excitement, knowing that they are taking this excitement into the next school year. It's not that we've changed their academics, is that we've changed their self-efficacy. They believe in themselves, and that's most of the battle that we're dealing with. Now, of course, academic success, which came to the next poll, that's really important too. We have to be very intentional in the lessons that we prepare for the students. And that's another key. We prepare the lessons and the teachers deliver it, but we're all on the same page because we've had professional development with the teachers beforehand and we've gotten their input. And of course, the family engagement, the students need to go back to their home. They go back to their home and what are they saying about their learning? Parents came back and they were, I can't get my child to stop talking. What are you guys doing here? And just that excitement and just the smiles on their face, all three of those combined. And it just depends where you're at in the journey of learning are essential for a good, an excellent program.
That's terrific. Thank you, Lucy. And just thinking about that also, the family engagement piece is so critical, and I'm really excited to hear some of the strategies you have for us today.
Okay. Well, on our next slide, I got this slide when I visited the Google headquarters in Mountain View, California. And they were sharing with us, this is our design process. This is an engineering design process. But as you can see in the middle, the iteration of developing ideas, it's not clear. It's messy. And we know that sometimes we're uncomfortable with that messiness of learning, but we also know that teachers, they need to feel supported as these changes are happening. Now, this change is happening as we speak right now to this program that I created. And it was just like, okay, now what? So I'm back to square one and thinking, okay, now the big picture. I want students to own their education. I want them to get excited about education, science, technology. How are we going to do that now? We know teachers may be feeling disconnected, scattered, overwhelmed, disorganized, but the students are also feeling disappointments. Maybe they're not going to get to go on their 5th grade trip. Graduations are not going to be in place. You know, grief. We don't know what's happening in the family. Stress, anxiety. How is the family dealing with financial effects? So all those little lines are going through our minds as we're trying to plan for the next program, which is coming up. So I'm going to talk about the process that I used. See, summer learning is going to look different for us this year, and that's why we need to plan differently. We had to look at extreme learning process and decide how can we change this program to support remote or distant learning. Our purpose and goal in our program is to engage students in their learning so they can become expert learners. We were giving students an opportunity to get excited about new things. And in order for this program to continue its success, we know that we need to bring equity to all the students that we're serving. So even if technology is not available, we need to bring them the same type of excellence through distance learning. So there's stages that I had to go back through. The exploration stage, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Pre-implementation and planning, initial implementation, and then full implementation and refinement, because we always could do something a little bit better. I started by asking those essential questions. What's the district's vision for distance learning? Is each school going to develop a program of its own, or is the district going to spearhead the whole program? What resources do I already have at hand? What are some of the best practices for distance learnings when students don't have the technology or connectivity? How can I make sure that there is a student-teacher connection? And which students are we going to serve? What students? Because there's so many. So am I going to focus on 4th grade, 5th grade, 3rd grade? So at this time, what we decided that we were going to look at is 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th grade, 4 grades. And remembering, this is a supplemental program. So this is on top of whatever the district has done. This is specifically to meet the needs of students that struggle throughout the year or are not making the gains like they can. The pre-implementation stage, again, that's when we have to know who are the students we're going to select? What lens am I going to use? What structures are in place for parent communication? How am I going to get the information out? Is it going to be robocalls? Is it going to be personal calls? Is it going to be emails? Are we going to use postcards? Are we going to write a letter and send it through the US mail? As I'm looking at all those questions that have to happen before we roll something out, then I start thinking, okay, are we going to use lesson plan templates? How are the students going to express their learning? How are they going to check in? What is the goal for our students? And again, as I look at my lens in my world of supplemental interventions, I'm looking at all three: social emotional learning, academics, and how to engage their families. The initial implementation. The initial implementation basically is, okay, here we go, we're gonna roll it out. Then how are we gonna disseminate the packets if we're gonna have packets? Chromebooks, okay, we have enough Chromebooks. Do we have enough connectivity? Do we have hotspots for the kids? Is there the infrastructure where the students live to receive the virtual type lessons? How are we going to check in with the students? So there's different things that we can do. We say, okay, if students don't have connectivity, we could provide them with QR codes, because most, and I hate making generalizations, but most people have at least a cell phone. So if you preload digital resources, the students can continue with their learning, as I'm going to share in a little bit, through a platform of being able to select their learning. And then the other thing is information. Some of the parents have said, it's so hard to get a hold of anybody. What are the access hours? And how are we going to make sure that the students are getting the supports that they need? And I'm going to share with you in a little bit also, you know, some students may need a family support plan because they don't have a parent that has experienced success maybe in school, or has different priorities, and we need to just coach them along and help them a little bit more. We want to make sure that we provide the families with a playlist, contact information, and office hours. And also, we put in a student survey in there too, because I want to know what the students think about what we're doing. I don't want to make assumptions. So then as I move into the full implementation, which means, okay, the way that I set up our summer learning program is 2 weeks, and then we're going to have another 2 weeks. So it's 4 weeks total, but I only planned it for, I'm only giving it out to the students 2 weeks at a time because there's obviously room for refinement. What did we learn from this rollout? What do I still have questions about? What do we need to change right away? The evidence-based programs or practices, they scale up and they scale down. What we used was the universal design for learning. So we made it very open-ended, but we wanted to make sure, again, that the social emotional health, the academics, and family and community partners were part of our plan. And we knew that we had to communicate any updates or any changes to the parents and make sure that the communication was clear, the same message all the time. So the people that are working within the structure, that they were well informed also.
Great, thank you, Lucy. So we all know that this coming summer and in the fall and just in our current climate, how incredibly important family engagement is and communicating with parents and making sure that they're supported to help their kiddos at home. So we want to know, what is your greatest challenge around family engagement? A poll is going to pop up with a couple of options. We'd like you to select your top choice. You should see that on your screen now or on your phone. What is your greatest challenge with family engagement? Or what do you expect it to be this coming summer? Ooh, consistent attendance is in the lead. Two-way communication. Registering students, the family commitment. Okay, terrific. So it looks like the biggest challenge that folks are thinking that they may be facing is that consistent attendance, and then also thinking about communication. Lucy, can you share a quick tip or best practice around how to improve or have consistent attendance between families and students within programs, especially over summer?
Mm-hmm. Well, and this is different because we're talking about distance learning, but in the previous way, we made sure we were there welcoming the students, welcoming the parents. See, it has to be a safe place for them. And also we offered different incentives that they could earn tickets throughout the day for different activities. Well, you can transfer it as you're looking at, okay, well, we want the students to be there or to check in, because there will be a check-in at least once a week. How are we going to do that? The same way. You know, you can have different little, what do you call it, drawings for the kids where they can, you know, you won a McDonald's gift card, or just different things that have to do with your program. You want an extra set of engineering kit. So got to find out what is going to get the kids engaged and what they will work for. Our students, they worked for Gatorades and baked hot Cheetos. And that's what, I mean, you would think I was just giving them a check for $100 every day. And that's what they wanted. So you got to make it worth their while. You got to make them, you know, want to be there. And they have to feel welcomed.
Absolutely, Lucy. And you know, in this current climate, Lucy, with some of the ideas that you've shared that you've done before, what are you planning to do this summer? How are you going to take those ideas? I'm hearing a lot about incentivizing, celebrating. How are you going to modify it this summer to ensure that you have more attendance or participation from students and families?
I think there are several ways that we can do that. First is, celebrating when students complete their work. I know that, for example, we're going to have either the students return the work through the mail or dropping it off. So having a place where they could showcase some of the work they've done, because it's a lot different. And also by just talking to the kids and just telling them how proud you are of them. We're going to have 6 teachers that are going to be working with our group of students. Well, part of their responsibility is going to be to contact the students. When I roll out the robocalls, and usually, dear parents, please listen to this message. Boys and girls, we're excited that you're going to be part of our program. Make sure you wake up on time, blah, 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 So you make it different and exciting, and the kids are just like, you called me last night. Yes, I did. Feel connected. All right, so go on to number 3. Step number 3. Family and community engagement. It's imperative that we engage our families in the learning process. We need them to be excited about what we're doing. There are cheerleaders out in the community. Now, you want them to say great things about your program because they're the ones that talk, hey, you know what they're doing over there at this school? They're having an extreme learning program. Or now, my child is getting extra support through the extreme learning program. They sent some projects that they're working on, and they had a family connection. They're the ones who are talking about all this. Give you an example, for our summer program that we did last year, at the end of the program, we provided the students with backpacks and books. They didn't know they were going to get that, but the smile on the kids' face afterwards when they received it, they're like, wow. But we also had workshops with the parents during that time, sharing with them how to use the resources. But one of the workshops that came up, and this was interesting because we had 4th graders all the way up to 8th grade, and then we had some newcomers that were second language learners that had been in the country for less than a year. They were part of our program too, to get that vocabulary development and school experience. There's a lot of siblings. So as we looked at that need, we're like, okay, what if we do a workshop for the parents on siblings taking care of siblings? And I talked to the parents, I go, how many of you say, okay, watch your brother, I'll be back, and don't give him any instructions? And then you come back and the house is a mess and it looks like and they're like, yes. So we did a workshop. We brought in our food services person or provider from the district, and she talked to the parents about kitchen safety, because that's where most of the accidents happen, when no one's home. The parents were very grateful about that. And again, I was building the, can you still hear me? The computer went weird.
Yes, we can still hear you.
Oh, okay, good, thank you. And I was building that foundation to build the relationships with the parents, because then during the school year, if they had questions or needed more support for their students, they didn't have a problem picking up the phone and calling our office and getting some extra support. Now, remember earlier I said that lots of times parents need more of a family support plan. Those are for the parents that maybe feel a little bit disconnected from the school, maybe shy. Maybe the reason they've only come to the school is because the child has not been behaving in school. So there's different ways you're gonna reach out to the parents. In this day and age, you can do it when the parents come and pick up the work, the US mail. There's other times where the students may want to talk to you a little bit more and share with you some of their struggles. If you had a list of local resources that is a lifesaver to them in the sense of, okay, this is a food bank. Okay, this is where I can get emergency relief. So sometimes the basic needs, the Maslow, remember Maslow, that guy? You know, those basic needs are taking over the more of the educational needs. So if they're hungry, if they're scared they're gonna be evicted, it's hard to learn. It's hard to learn and it's hard to support your child. But as we build that relationships between the home and the school, then that will help alleviate that barrier. You know, we can make parent circles where, you know, if they have the technology through Zoom meetings, not a complaint, and this is, you know, you have to have a strong facilitator there, but just sharing and celebrating what the kids are doing. But most of all, having a clear and concise plan and schedule. It's so important for the parents because they're not used to, you know, having their students complete all their work at home, maybe a 30-minute homework block. But we also have to realize that and tell the parents, I don't expect you to sit there with your child for 6 hours, you know, but their learning should realistically, if we're doing 3rd through middle school, 2.5 hours, 2 hours, they should be working on these activities every day. Because you don't want as a parent to be there and then all of a sudden telling their kid, don't get up from there until 6 hours or you're gonna get in trouble, and the kid's gonna hate doing the work and look at the situation more as a punishment instead of something rewarding and something that's encouraging. So very simple, having parents encourage them to help their child develop a learning space. And then again, making sure that the plans are clear and that they're consistent.
That's great, Lucy. And actually, Jess, if you don't mind going back there, I was just wondering from participants if there are current elements that you possibly have in place for summer to be able to support families. Are there any ideas that you wouldn't mind sharing in the chat box so that everyone can collaborate and see some resources or thoughts that maybe we haven't considered before? And Jade made a note, positive reinforcement versus positive punishment.
Mm-hmm.
Lucy, I think that the list of local resources is incredibly important. And
oh yes, very much so. And you can get those resources from local churches, from local community agencies such as the Boys and Girls Club or the YMCA. They have that information, but many times the parents don't know how to access it.
Okay, great. And thank you, Kristen, for sharing a resource to Denver Library Adventures.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate you sharing that and the link. And feel free, at any point anyone has a thought, an idea, a support or strategy to share, we'll go ahead and collect those in the chat box as well. Thanks, Lucy.
You're welcome. Teacher in a box. You know, teacher in a box is an idea that I had where we get a box, put the resources in that the students are going to need, have the parents wrap it up in a gift, and share with them. Education is a gift. What are you going to do with that gift? I used to have an assembly with my kids as I was when I was a principal, and I would wrap several boxes up and I would share with the kids, you know, you're taking time to plan your lesson. That's a gift. They're giving you your time. But when you come in and you're coming in late or you're coming in not prepared, you're throwing that gift away. And how would you feel if you go to a birthday party and you gave someone a gift and they looked at it and they just threw it on the side? And this is the same way that the parents could explain to the kids the importance of this opportunity. This is a gift that we're giving them. Now, this could be done with the teacher through a Zoom meeting, but if it's not available through Zoom, the parent can do this. And, you know, with clear, explicit information, the parents get it. Because many of the parents, when I talk to them, they go, I just want my child to do better than I did in school. So they understand and appreciate that gift. One of the things that we think about is, how are we going to engage our learners? But how are we going to teach the students to regulate their own learning and sustain the effort and motivation? Students have that inner ability to want it bad. Just like when a kid wants a video game and they will not let go until the parent purchases that video game. That's the same way we want them. I want to be part of that program. And they do. I mean, I had a student that came in and said, I can't be in your program. I said, why? What happened? Because I'm proficient now. And it's just funny that the kids know, just like a kid knows who's the smartest kid in the class and who's struggling. So there's a lot of things that we could capitalize on that we usually just overlook. So, distance learning playlist, okay? Traditional distance learning, you know, I'm reading and researching different programs. District has a software program, 1 teacher per 20 students. We're gonna meet on group Zoom once or twice a week, and these are my office hours. That's it. Well, to a student that's been struggling throughout the year, or a student that doesn't have that strong educational foundation, they're not going to ask a lot of questions. They may or they may not participate, but there's minimal connections. Students that, for example, don't have reliable internet connection, well, they're not going to be able to go on it because it's iffy. So it's going to look like they don't participate. However, if you use a universal design for learning, and that's basically looking at all aspects of the learning through affective, recognition, strategics, you can design a program where you give the students a voice and a choice, okay? So what I did here is I selected different activities that we're going to put into place and that are going to be available for the students to participate once a week and then the following week. So it goes like this. Please select one of the following activities each week. Well, they're going to have a choice board. You'll have an example of that in just a minute. A daily calendar. Those do not require internet access. Your personal learning project. Had a student that wanted to learn photography, and they took the ELA standard and they were able to justify why that was important to them. They wrote about it, they researched it, they made a display board. It's just like, wow, that's a lot more interesting than, tell me what you did this summer, or what are you gonna do this summer, which, you know, it's not gonna be much since we're all staying in place. And then they have the opportunity to look at the iReady at Home, which is an online program, but we only want them on there 95 minutes a day, because they did their own research and they said, this is what they found, that even if a student was on there 200 minutes a week, the growth was still the same. So they didn't make any more growth. So the maximum that they wanted the students on that program is 95 minutes. Those are our resources. You may have another resource. You may have BrainPop, you may have Accelerated Reader, whatever it is. See how we customize that according to what we have. And the other one is create a compassion project. You know, in this day and age when a lot of people are in need, it's so exciting to see what the kids are feeling inside. What is a compassion project? What do you want it to be? See, those are the differences than if we're just telling them, okay, you need to do this, you need to do that. All we're asking them is pick one of these. Then next one is a set of ELA type of activities. Guided reading books. Now, we have the A to Z program. We pre-print them and we provide them for the students. Guided reading came out to be the most effective strategy in learning how to read. Out of all, you could do a lot of things, but it came back to the guided reading. They have to practice the reading. The daily journal entry, we could have students write all about me, all about my family, whatever it is. We could have journal entries available for them, or they could free write it. Curriculum and Associates, that's one of the products that we use. It's not core curriculum, but it does have a strong language arts component. And then, so we're using that as part of our strategies. And then how about creating a pictorial timeline of your life or a family member's life? What an opportunity for them to sit down with their parent or with their aunt, grandmother, uncle, whoever may be, and say, tell me about your life. When was the first memory you had? And then just go in increments of 5 years or 3 years or whatever the student might want. Another product that we're using is Right Brain Book Publication. Basically, there's a series of writing lessons, but with that, they get a blank book just with the artist's pictures in it, and they're writing a book, they send it in, and it gets published. So it comes back as a little hardback book. So those are the strategies that we have the resources for, and that we're putting forth for our students. Now, as we look at the next one, where it comes to the math, notice that please select 3 of the following activities each week, because math tends to be a weak area for our district. So the data is showing us that the students need more practice in that. They need more encouragement in that. So we have an engineering toolbox project. It has everything they need in it in a Ziploc bag. Math fluency, practice pages. They could create math games, card games, and be ready for the next, in the fall, real life math problem solving activities. Students, they're excited about those kind of projects because it means something to them. How many times have we, why do we have to learn this? Well, give them a reason for them to learn it. And then the Curriculum and Associates math practice. And we have an online company that we work with, FBB Online Tutoring, that if the students get stuck with one of the concepts, they can log in and get help. It's not giving them the answer. They take them through a process of exploration and looking at, is that a reasonable answer? And actually help the students learn the concept so that they can be successful in that. And they also have, when the student goes in and they get support, they have exit tickets, but they also have give us, for our end, a little description. For example, a student was very well engaged. It was a joy working with him, or student was disconnected, did not participate. So those are just strategies that we know that are working. Those are the academic strategies. But what about this? A family fun. Okay, I'm going to take a vote. What activity do we want to do this week? A family scavenger hunt, a family pledge. Let's work on a puzzle. You know how much brain power that takes. Read aloud chapter books. I don't know if you guys remember when the teacher used to read the chapter books and you're so excited the next day to listen to what happened next. We lost that craft, that beautiful connection that we have with books. Now, how about a family cooking night measurement? Getting a cake box and say, okay, let's cut it in half or cut it in fours. How would that look? Playing board games and designing a game that you all could play. Those are just simple activities that are excellent just for the family to stay connected. So, Lisa, take it away.
So let's look at a couple of the activities that Lucy had listed on her first playlist. Both of these are really easy to implement without technology. This one is super cool. It's from Offline Choice Boards by Caitlin Tucker. And each square has an idea to offer students choice and entice them and their families to engage in creative learning and play. So this chart includes self-guided, creative and fun activities from anywhere from designing your own science experiment using items found in your home to choreograph and teach your family a new dance to showcase in the 2020 TikTok dance competition. By the way, you might encourage them to share a video of themselves and their mom and their little brother rocking the moves. You know, these ideas are really easy to share. Just print out the choice board. You can share it in hard copy or you can digitally send it to them. You can also create your own, right? I mean, if you want to create an offline board, use this template and even maybe share this blank template with families and encourage the parents to ask their kids to create their own activities. So this one is a summer activities calendar, and it's just one activity for every day. Again, it's super easy to share and to use in hard copy. If you zero in, you can see this one is really about college and career readiness, and it's great for, I mean, even middle school students, but certainly high school students. So look at Tuesday the 2nd. It says, just like a dream without a plan is just a wish, a goal without a plan can never be successful. Write down 3 ways you'll work on your goal. On the 8th, it says, make a timeline for achieving your goal. Include a daily routine that will help you work on your goal at home a little each day. So this would be a great way to just inspire families to continue the learning and to give their students choice. So we don't want you to come to the end of your resources before you come to the end of your summer. So here is a list of links for all kinds of really tried and true. So these are some of our staff favorites. I just love engineering.org. It has engineering lessons that are completely turnkey. A parent or a student could follow them, tells you what materials you need in advance. So today's handouts include the distance learning playlist, choice board, and summer activities that we just talked about, but there's going to be more information sent to you and links for the other activities. So here's some super great offline resources. I went into each one and just got lost. There's so many fun ways to keep kids busy and playing, but also that'll inspire learning and collaboration with their brothers and sisters, or if they're able to, if the parents are able to leave their computers to hang out a little bit. So these links take you to these innovative ideas, how to make summer days fun. And if you just explore, then find one you like, you could share the links, create a QR code for them, as Lucy suggested, or maybe you just share one each week at a time. You know, to families without technology, you could share, most of them have articles or lists or instructions, so you could share them in hard copy print. So just more resources for your toolkit as you think about how you're going to ensure your students play and grow and learn this summer. So hopefully you agree. Today we explored an exemplar summer learning program. Thank you so much, Lucy. We learned how to implement a summer learning program. We gained some strategies to incorporate play, exploration, curiosity, and fun. And we increased our understanding of the power of family and community partners. So if you have an aha from today, if you want to type it in the chat box, help us all to know what you're thinking about and what you took away from today.
Lucy and Lisa, we really appreciate you sharing such great information and strategies with us from today. Brandon shared that he loves all the family activities. Hopefully you found that there were some tips that before the school year ends, or that it may be more challenging to reach parents, that you found some resources and items that you can give to families right away. Sam, you're more than welcome. So we actually had sent out a note catcher that includes these 4 questions that you're welcome to take back to your school teams or your program teams as you're planning for this summer or for the fall. And upcoming, in case you weren't able to join us for session 1, you're welcome to join us next Monday, May 11th. You can also sign up for session 3 this Friday, May 8th. It will also take place next Friday, May 15th as well. You can register on our COVID-19 response webpage or click the yellow boxes to register when you receive the slides. If you're interested in a free coaching session, a registration link will be emailed at the end of this week. That will help you and your team really think through some of the barriers that you might be facing and come up with some ideas to support students and families within the coming months. And in addition to the resources that Lucy has shared with us today and that you saw on a couple of our resource slides, we will send a follow-up email to all attendees that will include the link to download a summer learning planning guide to use when you're planning your summer program. It's pretty much like a logic model that includes a space to think about the resources you have, the outcomes that you want to see for this coming school year even. And if you're interested in additional COVID-19 resources and offerings, please visit the URL listed at the bottom of the slide. And right now we have a couple minutes. We would love to hear from you. Any questions that you have, you're welcome to ask questions to the speakers at this moment. Need to engage families both in our program and with students at home. So we have a question from Brandon. Are some of the family resources also available in Spanish? Lucy can share on that.
Are you talking about like the right brain book stuff? You can do that in either English and Spanish. The Curriculum and Associates, they have an online program that could be in Spanish. Just make sure that all the communication that you send to the parents should be in English, obviously, and in what other primary language that is part of your school's LCAP. Sorry.
No worries at all. We're all coming from home these days. Brandon, also, I believe on one of the resources slides, you'll see a couple of the resources. I believe there's also in Spanish, including some of the lessons that come from San Francisco Unified School District. Great question.
One of the resources that's awesome is called Resources for Educator, and that's a newsletter kind of a resource, but this year, because of the COVID-19, they have it by grade level, like different things you can do at home, and that comes in English and in Spanish. So I would look into that one. Resources for Educators. It's a newsletter and it's not expensive at all.
Great, thank you, Lucy. Well, we will be wrapping up our session for today. We thank you so much for joining us. As a reminder, we will be sending out the slides and the recording along with all of the resources and links within the next 24 hours. We are also always trying to improve our program, so please answer the exit survey at the end of the webinar and tell us how we did. You're also welcome to complete it in the follow-up email that we will send out as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Lucy or Lisa or one of us at Generation Schools. We sure hope that we get to see you Friday. Hope you have a great evening. Thank you.